All right. My goal for today is to get one person in here and one person to ask a question. Until then, I'm probably just going to get on ChatGPT, have it ask me questions, and I'm going to answer that. So let's do that real fast. Going over to ChatGPT. What question would you ask a photographer of 20 years? Splitting the screens. Right. First question. What mistake did you repeat for way too long before you realized it was holding you back? I think the main thing that kept repeating, or not kept repeating, but that repeated throughout my career was I didn't treat my career as a business. I treated it most of the time as an artist. And as an artist, I feel like you kind of get stuck. There's artists and there's business people, and some people have both and they can do amazing things. But for me, it was more about the enjoyment of taking the pictures. So I didn't always, I felt bad for charging people for coming in to do something that I loved. Like they were hiring me, but I felt like I was getting more joy out of it than they were, just because the nature of photography, people are always like hesitant to get their picture taken unless they're like a model or they actually enjoy it, which of course that's all, I know how that sounds, but I would say 85% of the people that stepped in front of my camera were nervous or didn't know what to do or something like that. So they were always like tensed up, and it didn't seem enjoyable for them. And then of course there were people that loved to take pictures and they were great at it and it was an enjoyable thing. So the thing that always jumps out at me is that I started at a certain price range and probably didn't go up in price until 8 or 10 years into photography. And to be honest with you, even 25 years later, I still sometimes charged the same amount or gave away things for free. So until I actually developed my career and had said pricing for the career that I was in, which was real estate photography, architectural, and commercial, I call myself an inanimate object photographer. Until then, that's when I started being able to raise my prices to have selective clients. And so that's something that went on way too long that I should have corrected in the beginning that I didn't. Still nobody in the chat. So still on my goal of getting just one person in here with one question. Until then, question 2. What advice do you now completely disagree with that everyone gave you early on? Man, so the instant thing that comes to mind is just photograph everything. Like, oh yeah, well, if you photograph everything, you won't miss out on anything. Like, people would tell me, yeah, but you could do sports. Can you do headshots? Can you do weddings? Can you do this? Like if you did everything, then you'd be able to, cover the whole range and not have any downtime. And I think it was Julian Navarrete. I apologize if that's not the correct name. He really showed me, and this was later into my career, probably mid 2000s, like 2008, 2012, somewhere around there. I don't know. But he really showed me that if you focus on one single niche and just dominate that niche, then that's really where you're going to start profiting. And that's when I really started to narrow it down and eliminate things and actually saying no. And that's probably the advice that somebody would have given me, that it worked out in the end. If you had to rebuild from zero today, what would you ignore entirely for the first year? Well, it's funny you say that, because I am 100% rebuilding from zero right now. And that's part of the reason why I can get on YouTube, go live, answer questions, and all of those things, because believe it or not, I actually sold my photography business. We are renting our house. My wife has some income. And so I have my income coming from the sale, our rental, her income, and some other streams that we started over. We completely moved out of our town that we've both lived there our whole lives, and have moved to a different place that's, really far away, where we don't know anybody, and we are rebuilding and starting from scratch. So what's something that I would ignore for the first year? Going back to the first thing is, I think the first thing I would do is charge more right out the gate. You get what you pay for, and I feel as if my quality is now to the level that it's going to be very high, and you're going to get a result without any troubles, which most of the time nowadays, that's what somebody's going to be looking for more than your actual skill level, is how well you can actually execute the thing and get it all done with good efficiency and communication. We've gotten to the level where, as photographers, you could literally just go to Best Buy or Marketplace, spend a couple $100, like $200 or $300, put on Marketplace that you are now taking pictures and or in your groups. And if you're popular enough, you could just be off to the races like that. The problem that comes is, most of the time, those people don't know the logistics of photography, and they don't realize that, yes, they've been marketing themselves for years on social media, and they take good pictures with their phones, but they don't know the business side of photography. So they don't have like a delivery method, or they don't know how to get clients once their normal stream is dried up. And what I say by normal stream is a friend or family that is using you. And then once you get past friends and family, then that's when the actual real work starts. So that's the tough part about rebuilding or building from zero. And you really do need to pick one single niche that you really love. If you wake up and all you think about is cars, then you really need to stick to cars. If you wake up and all you think about is props and things like that, then maybe you should have a studio and do families, babies, seniors, things like that. So that is definitely what I would say about what to ignore. I think I got off topic on that one. That's fine. What actually mattered for your success that no one talks about? Jesus, God. He makes our path, and we don't talk about it enough, but he does. He has a path for you, and if you take the steps that he plans for you, he will deliver what you're wanting in your vision, in your dream, what you ask for. People don't talk about that enough. They always contribute it to luck, or they call it something else. But I mean, when it's designed, and God takes it and runs with it and gives you choices. And if you take the right choices and do good, then I believe he gives you good things. So God is not talked about enough, and Jesus, is needing to be talked about more in those types of situations and in everyday life. When did your taste finally outgrow your skill, and how did you close the gap? When did your taste finally outgrow your skill? It says, this question reveals the invisible grind years. So the second part is more telling to me than anything, where my taste, I'm guessing it's saying, like, what did I want to do when I first started? And the very first time I ever picked up a camera, I tried to take pictures of lightning. So whenever I say that, you always think like, oh, like a 20-something-year-old chasing lightning. No, I was literally a 6 or 7-year-old with a Polaroid camera on the top of a Lincoln, taking pictures of lightning, with my mom saying, you're not going to capture the lightning. That camera can't do it. It's too slow. And then so for the foreseeable future, all I wanted was a camera that would be fast enough and that I can control. And so when I was 10 years old, they got me that camera, and I've been off to the races ever since. So as far as outgrows my taste and all those things, I did go through, I call it my 1-year phase of everything. And so what that means is I did something each year that was different to try and find what I liked the most. So I started out with concert photography because I thought, getting to know bands and things like that would be really cool. Turns out there's no money in that unless you actually travel with the bands or travel with the production crew, the lighting crew, the travel with anybody. And so, that was definitely an eye-opener. And then from there, I thought, well, sports photography, this is almost the same thing. Low light action. I wanted the hardest thing possible. So low light action football photography is where I went from there, and found out there's no money in football photography unless you do either volume team sports or you do like an actual traveling with the team, ESPN, and then try and getting your photos published or sold to Getty or through Getty, through posters and things like that, through licenses. And I found out that doing normal football with professionals didn't work out like I would have hoped it did. And so I did that for a couple of years. And then from there, I moved on to MMA. I know there's a pattern repeating here, but I thought I was good enough to maybe make it over to UFC. It was just starting to become really big back then. And when it comes to MMA photography, there's only like 1 or 2 people on the actual cage itself. And I wanted to be the person that looked over the cage, takes the photos and stuff like that. I actually had a contact with the UFC, and I was really close to being able to photograph one UFC, but it fell through in the end, and they just found somebody else. It was no hard feelings. But I did photograph a whole bunch of local MMA shows and got to know the MMA community, the boxers, and all of those. It's funny because, the scarier the person, most of the time, the sweeter the individual, I could say, just because they know they could do damage to you, and they know that things could go bad in a hurry. And I think that's, on their mind at all times. So they don't want to hurt anybody. So they're all sweet. Okay. And we had a couple people show up, but nobody actually clicked into the chat and asked a question. So I'm going to keep going until I honestly just get bored. What do beginners obsess over that become almost irrelevant later? Camera equipment. Definitely camera equipment. If I were to say anything to any beginner, it's find your budget for whatever equipment you can afford. So what that means is people always think that you have to have the latest, the greatest, the most amazing thing ever to take good pictures, and that's not true at all. I have a 15-year-old camera upstairs that I still would love to use and still used up until about 3 months ago. And then before that, I haven't even switched over to mirrorless yet, and I'm making six figures, and it's nobody notices or does anything. You could go back really far into the camera industry and get a really good quality. I mean, technically all you need is like 12 megapixels nowadays, so you can get a good 15-year-old camera for $200 or $300. And with the way we're upscaling and doing things nowadays in the editing, then it's definitely something you can get away with and do great things. The biggest difference and thing that's going to continue into the future is lighting. And so with the advent of AI and things like that, you're going to lose out on a lot of things, and photography is going to take a different direction over the next 10 or 15 years. And so you have to keep those things in mind. Equipment is not going to be as important in the future as it was 10 years ago. So if I were to tell anybody just starting out, and I do all the time, go to a KEH or MBP, MPB, I forget all the time, and literally just pick a brand that you prefer, Nikon, Canon, Sony. If you have friends that have those, then choose that brand because they're all pretty much going to be the same when you start out. And if you have $300, like literally just look for a camera that's $300 and just go from there. You can get a nice full frame camera for $300. I would definitely recommend using something that's, from the older DSLR line just to learn photography, and get like a really basic, inexpensive off-camera flash to separate yourself from everybody that's using an iPhone that's not using flash, and separate yourself out and go from there. Still nobody in the chat. Nobody has asked a question. Continuing. What is the one habit that compounded quietly over decades? One habit that compounded quietly. Efficiency. Getting to learn how to take a picture, edit the picture, deliver the picture. I hear it all the time, and it may be from where I started, which was having to take photos, edit the photos, deliver the photos by the next morning, that I learned this routine. So I started out learning this really early on, but delivering your images quickly is definitely a step up on everyone. If you are a wedding photographer and all other wedding photographers were the exact same price as you and offered the same thing, a second shooter and all that, but everybody else and all the quality was the same, and you said you could deliver in 1 week and everybody else was saying that they're going to deliver in 3 to 4 months, which is common, then most of the time you're definitely going to be picking the one that's faster. Still nobody in here. I don't even know, how do you even find people on YouTube? Well, we'll cut it at 20 minutes. I didn't meet my goal today, but that's fine. And that's another lesson. If you don't meet your goal, it's okay, because you could just retry again later. And it's that grind that makes you work harder and keeps everything relevant and keeps you going. So hope everybody has a great day watching this afterwards. Hopefully you get some kind of insight on it. If you are watching this later, leave a comment with your question that you would like for me to ask, and I may ask it, or I may answer it in the next one. So everyone have a great rest of the day.